Welcome to Women Talking Soccer. I'm your host, Carrie Taylor. The goal of this podcast is to amplify the voices of all women who love the beautiful game. Whether you're on the field, cheering from the stands, work in the business, want to be in the business, or are a passionate change maker, your voice is important. This podcast is presented by Women in Soccer. Women in Soccer is a network of women and allies involved in our favorite sport. You can join Women in Soccer for free online at womeninsoccer.org. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today on Women Talking Soccer. Our guest today is none other than Keidanes McAlpine, who is currently the coach at the University of Southern California on the women's side. And I believe you have a national championship under your belt there. And, thank you for joining us on the podcast. And can you give our listeners a little bit about your background, where you got your start, how you got into coaching, and we'll just go from there.
First of all, thanks for having me, I can do all that. Grew up in Huntsville, Alabama, son of educators, and my dad had the opportunity to see play and really loved the game. Never played it himself, and so it got me started. And in Huntsville, we have quite a diverse community, just between three universities, the Marshall Space Flight Center, the space program, all the engineering companies, as well as Redstone Arsenal military. So we actually had a pretty good soccer community. Grew up there, had coaches, Caribbean, African, European. So had different influences in that regard. Played at Birmingham Southern, played a year in the old A League, played USISL while I was in college. But ultimately started coaching my little sister's team after college was over, but ended up coaching at Birmingham Southern for my first job. Got taken on as assistant by Lauren Ecker Shepherd, wonderful woman and coach, and then ultimately took over the program and transitioned us from NAIA to Division One.
Okay.
Was there 5 years, then went down to Auburn, was there for another 6 years as an assistant. Jumped to Washington State for 2 years as a head coach, had a pretty decent time there. And then USC called, and I've been here ever since.
Well, that's quite the career. I love that you started coaching your sister's team. That's how was that experience? How was that experience?
Oh, it was awesome. I didn't have much choice, to be honest. My mom basically told me that I was going to be coaching my little sister's team. But it was great. It was great. My little sister and I, we have a good relationship. She's about 6 years younger.
Okay.
And I do think I had a little bit of influence on her in terms of her willingness and wanting to play in the first place. But it was a great place to start. And what I found was it was a moment where I was just trying to help those young women get to college. And it ultimately launched me into a space where I found a career.
Yeah, that's fantastic. You mentioned the A League and the USISL. Those are some acronyms that we don't hear much anymore.
No, telling my age.
Well, we're probably of similar age because truth be told, I played in the USWISL back in the day. So yeah.
Yep.
The acronyms just keep changing. Yeah, no, for sure. The acronyms keep changing. So tell us about your experiences currently at USC and just what kind of opportunities there are for women within that program and some of the highlights that you've had while coaching there.
Yeah, USC obviously is educationally a wonderful place, and I think ultimately that's the draw. In the women's game, it's the biggest draw, and so it does lend itself to acquiring some pretty decent talent. When we got there, however, the program was not on the greatest. They weren't having the greatest time, and it wasn't for lack of talent. It was they had lost the connection in terms of communication with their coach and who they were and how good and the possibilities that they could be. And so we were able to go in and just shift mindset a little bit and change some of the habits and slowly but surely we were we were able to add some new talent and really get the talent there playing at a decent level. And we found ourselves in the College Cup and in the national final, and found a way to win a game that against an opponent that was absolutely magnificent in West Virginia. And the talent, obviously, they're playing all over the world and doing their thing. But we were pretty talented too, and we had some pretty committed women at that point. But the thing I like about SC is the combination of, and what hit home for me, being from the South, and being in super fandom space of the South, that athletic tradition, combined with that academic profile, with both my parents being educators, was a great fit. Was a really great fit. And as much as I love the Palouse and the people there, I am a warm weathered person.
Oh yeah.
And so it helped me. It helped me to come to LA and leave the Palouse. But the timing was good, and it's been fantastic to be at SC, and we're attracting great talent, and we've been able to become sustainable as one of the country's best. And that's always the goal, and to give each and every woman a chance to reach their goals, whether it be academically or athletically, to be their best and reach that next level.
Yeah. You mentioned your parents both being educators. Did they try to push you into teaching at all, or do they consider coaching teaching?
They definitely did not consider coaching teaching. My father
Okay.
was always trying to get me to go back to get further degrees. I'm like, well, Dad, I got coaching license. I'm still educating. I'm just doing it a different way. Um, but he always challenged me and would tell me, hey, you gotta make this thing a real career. And I'm like, I am making it a real career. So when I finally got it going, he understood, and now he's probably, I call him the first assistant to the head coach, right? He's always there, giving me new information.
That's great. That's great.
Because he swears he knows the game now, right? But no, um, they always, my mom was probably the most influential in terms of me broadening my experiences in and out of sport and just doing different things. And my dad was always pushing me in terms of my process, in terms of how I went about doing things. And so that combination of just being open to all different types of things and doing different things, and really locking in on the strategy and the process, and was a great combination. It's paying off now.
Yeah, that's great. My dad always said, "When are you going to get a real job?" And I had that similar struggle. I'm like, "Dad,
Exactly.
what do you think I'm doing? Like, this is a real job." And now in his older age, he's like, "Yeah, you're right. You've been able to have a career in your passion, which is not everyone gets to do that." So that's that's the fun
And
part.
isn't that what we're after, right?
Yeah.
If we can do what we truly love, we'll be better at it, and
Yeah.
thus hopefully get somebody to pay us to do it.
Yeah, exactly. So, how I've known who you are, and I think we run in similar soccer circles, but the first time that I actually was formally introduced to you is through the Women in Soccer group, which you're a part of.
Yeah.
And you're, one of the wonderful male allies within that. So can you just kind of talk about, why that's important to you in order to be, a male ally that is an advocate and there to support not only female coaches, but just women in the game. Can you kind of talk about why you said yes to joining the group?
Absolutely. I think first and foremost, it's important to me because so many women along my path and in my life have been instrumental in pushing me forward and pushing, creating platforms and spaces for me to grow and to improve, and helping me in the game and those kind of things. Not to mention, like I said, I started coaching my sister's team, and every step of the way, even myself being a player in Alabama, coming up, nobody wanted to come to Alabama for a soccer player, and now we've got quite a few players out playing professionally and doing some great things. And but on the women's side, a lot of our women players were able to find some space and make national teams and do some things. But that was where it started, and then as I've been able to grow my career and just be in and around and work with all these wonderful women, they just need more opportunities. The game has so much more to offer, but for the most part, they're only able to participate in such a small space of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so being in this space where hopefully I can have an impact in creating more opportunity, more space, be somebody to speak if I happen to be in a room or a circle, to promote, push forward, and stand behind, stand beside, however you want to say it,
Right.
but create more space, more room for these wonderful women, soccer players, business women, leaders, you name it, to have space to be their whole selves. I think it's worth it.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that, and for your support of the women in soccer organization, and all of us that are involved with it. And that's the key thing. Like, a lot of times people are a little apprehensive when women get together and start doing things. They think it's, we're anti-man or something like that. And that's definitely not the case. A lot of my great mentors, who I've had along the way are men, and because that was who I was surrounded by. A lot of times I was the only woman in the room, or the only, female coach in the club. So it's definitely helpful to have strong male advocates like yourself who can, like you said, stand next to, stand beside, stand behind, push us through the door and say, yes, you can do this, or yes, apply for that job. So thank you very much,
Absolutely.
for being involved with the women in soccer organization. I'm gonna
Absolutely.
flip it to some real talk and talk about
All right.
how we can get more people and humans of color coaching and leading and
Yeah.
all of that. Like, I know you're involved with the Black Coaches Association, and there's been a big push recently, and my fear is that there's a lot of lip service and not a lot of action. So I want to talk to you about what you're doing with the Black Coaches Association, and just like, I want to hear from you about what is needed, what needs to
Yeah.
happen, how myself as a white female can help, stand beside people of color and stand behind them, and just like, what needs to happen.
Um, I appreciate the question. And first and foremost, I gotta give a lot of credit to the leadership of the Black Soccer Coaches Group. This past year, they've been on the ball, led by Nicole Hercules, and she's been phenomenal in pushing us in the right directions and being active. But one of the things that that I've been probably the most connected to is trying to do a few things, create more network of Black coaches out there, because a lot of Black coaches don't necessarily know that there are people in their area, especially club coaches that are even right next door, and they don't know they exist because there's not that many. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to create network, especially out here on the West Coast. But I've been working with some college coaches in turn on the women's side, to create some more network opportunities, some
Mm-hmm.
more advocacy, and ultimately, try to create some mentors.
Mm-hmm.
And to the women's soccer community's credit, we're still trying to get it all off the ground, but many of them have jumped at the opportunity to stand up and be mentors for young coaches, and young coaches of color in particular, and give them an opportunity to get closer to them, because for many of us, um, it's not like everybody's gonna easily walk up to Anson and so on and so forth, and I say Anson, he's the long-standing pillar, right?
Right.
But it's not easy for young coaches to walk up to coaches that they see in the spaces, and just talk to them,
Mm-hmm.
and get to know them, and more importantly, in their camps and clinics and whatnot, get seats at the table where they can
Mm-hmm.
coach. So that's one of the things that we're working on. But the Black Soccer Coaches group we've touched so much more, whether it be the NWSL, whether it be the MLS, whether it be the USL. They're having conversations. We've had conversations with coaches from across the world,
Mm-hmm.
Africa, Caribbean, England, coaches from all over Canada, and then just trying to network and get together, because one of the things that we need most is in our urban and
Mhm.
areas. We need coaches in there, really good coaches.
Yep.
We need finances in there. We need
Yep.
opportunity in there. We need to grow these young players. When you look around the world, soccer is a poor person sport,
Yeah.
right? Because the powers that be give them access by paying for them to come into their academies, so on and so forth, and let them progress through their career. In the U.S., it's the opposite, and so we're constantly trying to create more opportunity and understanding about the sport to play. And on the women's side, it's the easiest way to education, because there's so many teams.
Yep.
To tie those two things together, it's needed. And I will say it's changing, it's
Hmm.
shifting. If you're starting to look across the landscape, you saw the draft, you've seen what's happening in
Yes.
the NWSL. You start to see more and more on our national team. It's shifting. I
Hmm.
don't want to say there hasn't been progress, but there needs to be more.
Yeah.
And in the landscape of collegiate coaches, I mean, just look at the Power Five schools. In the Power Five conferences, there is only three of us.
Yeah.
Um, Myself, Eric Bell at TCU,
Hmm.
Jason at Boston College. I mean, it, we're out there. We can coach. We just
Yeah.
need opportunity. We need access,
Yeah.
and we need some more advocates.
Yeah. No. Well, thank you for sharing all that. And the biggest thing is the access to opportunity. Um, you know, I grew up in Flint, Michigan, which is, definitely not a
Oh, yeah,
not a hotbed of soccer. And it has a lot of socioeconomic issues, and, you know, th- getting that access and being able to join in a team that doesn't really cost much. Like, you need a ball and you need a space, and I feel like
right.
the youth soccer culture has just kind of perpetuated this huge monster of stuff. And hopefully, I
Yeah,
used to work in the youth soccer space for a long time, and that's one thing that, it needs a lot of revamping. And I'm sure you have lots of fun stories about recruiting and all that good stuff, but the access is key. And if we can, tap into communities that aren't necessarily touched and provided for, then, I think the sky's the limit as far as, just improving the game, improving opportunities, and improving overall health and well-being for young people, for sure. So, um
absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
let's talk about the changing women's soccer landscape. I know, your position as a college head coach. How do you talk to your players about potential opportunities in the game, or how do you help them, offer advice to, maybe get into the professional leagues, and where do you see the women's pro leagues in the United States going?
That's a really good question. The one thing, if you look back through time, we couldn't keep a professional league for more than 3 years at a time for the longest. So to see the NWSL now standing past that threshold is massive. To see that there's still teams coming in,
Mhm.
massive. To see that the celebrity that is now co-signing, so to speak, as
Yeah.
owners and whatnot with the league, to give it
Mhm.
to give it some eyes that maybe wouldn't have been on it before, I think is important. Um, but I challenge us not to rush into judgment of the league and think we're at its pinnacle yet, because
Mhm.
if you look at the MLS, it took a long time and it's still growing and still getting to the level it needs to be. We're still in our infancy, right?
Mhm.
With these pro leagues, and it's gonna have some more iterations. The announcement of another league coming and more opportunity coming is good.
Mhm.
Um, but trying to express to our women, don't get stuck in just thinking this country as the space to play.
Mhm.
Broaden your horizons. Be willing to look everywhere to play. Not everybody can play in the NWSL. There's just not enough spots.
Mhm.
There are other places to play. Now, granted, they may not be as glamorous, but they're still growing and learning opportunities. There's still a chance while you're young, while your legs work. Um, to still play the game that you love, to go and see spaces and learn languages maybe that you wouldn't have otherwise. And so that's the challenge. And what we try to do is just make sure that they're prepared, and so that when and if opportunities come and they want to chase those dreams,
Mm-hmm.
there's avenues for them. And that's really the key. Um, you know, the game is one that only allows you to stay in it for so long, and
Mm-hmm.
once your legs go,
Yeah.
it's over. So I just challenge them, don't leave it before you're truly ready to leave it, because when you may want to come back, well, at least at this capacity,
Right.
we all try to continue to extend our careers,
Yeah.
um but at this level, it's one of those things, run while you can, and
Mm-hmm.
then when that time is over, it's over, and that's okay. But um that's really the message that I try to make sure I share with them.
Yeah. No, that's great. I wish I would have. It wasn't really an option way back in the day, but going overseas to play soccer was always like, seemed to me like such a cool opportunity. And, there's some people that are like, oh, NWSL players shouldn't go overseas. And I'm kind of like, well, why not? You can always come, like, what's to say you can't come back? Like, go get new experiences, learn new cultures, branch out of your little
Yeah,
bubble that maybe you've grown up in. So it's,
absolutely. The WNBA has been doing it for years.
mhm.
you know
Yeah,
Enjoy it.
that's a good
So,
point.
and those leagues are growing too.
They are.
those
They are.
those leagues are growing as well. So
Yeah, they really are, and that's the exciting piece that, soccer for women is just, in my lifetime of being in the game, it's like it's light years from where it was 30 years ago. And like some people are like, oh, it's not growing fast enough. And I'm kind of in between. I'm like, you don't know what it used to be like. And now, there's still
right.
change that needs to happen, but there's been a lot of growth on every level. Um, do
Yeah,
you
if you
have,
if you look at it and you go, our
go ahead.
oh,
Sorry.
sorry.
No,
I was
go
just
ahead.
gonna say, if you just look at our national team, and the fact that when they won their first World Cup, no one knew about it,
Mm-hmm.
to now,
Yeah.
change has happened, but there's still more to happen, still
Yeah.
more to come for sure.
Yeah, for sure. What I was starting to say was, what advice would you give to a young coach, whether it's female, male coach, doesn't matter. What could you, like, knowing what you know now about the whole coaching career, what advice would you give to a young up and coming coach?
Learn your craft. Learn your craft.
Mm-hmm.
Go get a little team. Work on your delivery. Work on your ability to be flexible, because all your players aren't there. Learn how to take large concepts and make them smaller.
Mm-hmm.
Learn how to plan your season. Put in your 10,000 hours, coaching, and do it at multiple levels, multiple age groups. Learn how to navigate parents.
Mm-hmm.
Learn how to navigate your team managers. Um, all of those things will help you later. And then as you do that, go get your licenses, get education, and ask questions of people around you. Coaches are people. Walk up to them, introduce yourself, say hello, ask questions. It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that is one thing that I don't think enough young coaches do. Go watch other people do sessions.
Yeah.
I think all of those things would truly benefit young coaches in their dreams to move to the next level. And then, really identify someone or a group of people at the level that you ultimately want to be, and reach out to them and see if they can't help you, just get all the nuances, because it's so much more than you ever thought it was.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's still a very simple game.
Yeah. I don't know where I heard it, but someone told me there are really no secrets in soccer. It's just like, gathering information from people and kind of putting your own stamp on it, your own spin. And, like, it's a pretty simple, like you said, it's a pretty simple game when you get down to it, but learning to create your own identity and your coaching, being yourself and figuring out what that looks like. Cause I know I have definitely evolved as a coach over the years. And, I look back,
Absolutely.
and I'm like, why did I do that? Or I was really a jerk in that situation. And I'm still learning, we're all still learning. We're not perfect. We're definitely humans. So, um, these,
Absolutely.
so couple final questions, because I know I don't want to take too much of
Okay.
your time. What is your wish, or what would be like an amazing thing to see women's soccer in 5 years?
5 years. Teams in so many more cities, big cities. Each of those teams with true academies.
Mm-hmm.
Not just pretend academies, but real academies.
Yep.
Um, and with that, a whole new set of referees, coaches,
Mm-hmm.
business leaders, all races, all genders, but really just a hodgepodge. I want it to reflect, the spaces and the communities that they're in. But I think that would be the biggest thing, because I think we've got so many great players
Mm-hmm.
playing collegiately that don't have a home to play,
Yep.
don't have a next step. So we could get more teams, multiple levels, so that there are reserve teams. So um, there's a proper way to get into the full team. There's
Yeah.
space for them to continue to grow while trying to take the next step. Because that whole U23 level is not here to
Right.
give us that structure. And it seems so we might have an avenue coming, but
Mm-hmm.
that would be the wish. That would truly be the wish, because I coach a lot of women that ultimately want to play, but they
Yeah.
look at it and they go, I don't know if there's really an opportunity for
Yeah. Okay. This is a tough question. What's Keidanes going to be doing in 5 years?
it. Now that is a $1 million question.
You don't have to
um,
tell me. I'm just throwing it out there.
Coaching somewhere,
Good
coaching
answer.
somewhere. Now
Good answer.
where and who and how, I don't know, but coaching for sure. No, I mean, USC's been great to me, and we still got some growth to have in our program, but um, obviously, who knows where the wind will blow and what happens next.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I like the space I'm in. I like what I'm doing. I love the women that we have in our team, but
Yeah.
I 5 years is a
It's a long
lifetime,
time.
and
Yeah.
it's a blink all at the same time.
Yeah. But you're staying on the West Coast, because the West Coast is the best coast.
I, you know, it's growing on me. I'm not gonna lie. I always said I'd never live in LA, so, and here I
Yeah.
am.
There you go.
So
That's
it,
funny.
it's growing on me. Can't beat the weather. Can't beat the sun.
That's true. That's true. Okay, couple more little wrap up questions. Do you have like a favorite quote
Yeah.
or mantra that you kind of live by, or like just, when you're having a struggle, you kind of come back to that quote or saying ever?
I just tell people all the time. I don't coach a sport. I coach people.
Mm, good.
Um, and for me that grounds me in my decisions. It grounds me in what I'm really doing. Um, and I don't get lost in the competition. I try to get back to the people, and if I can live in that space with my decisions, then more often than not, I'm gonna make better decisions, and
Yeah.
ultimately our teams will do better, because there'll be more value in every last player in the team rather than just certain players in the team.
No, that's good. That's a good one. I don't coach a sport. I coach people. I like that. Very good. Very good. Okay. Favorite book or something, or books? A book that maybe you've read recently that you recommend to other people, that speaks to you in a special way.
Honestly, the book that I've been pushing out there for a lot of people is the Captain's Class, and it's not
Mm.
like a really meaningful and powerful book by any stretch of the imagination, but it
Mm-hmm.
just talks about what makes great teams great.
Okay.
And for me, it the makeup of great teams, and regardless of sport, and it goes through and identifies a lot of things. So that was one, um, that that really got me, and then one that was probably pretty powerful for 2020, was Cast,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
by Isabella Wilkinson.
Mm-hmm.
That for me, um, it was a good book in the time
Mm-hmm.
that we're in, to just kind of take a different view, a different look at something that we live in and we know,
Yeah.
but it kind of puts some clarity into it. So,
Okay. Yeah,
and those are the two big ones.
those are good. I hadn't heard of the captain's class, so I wrote that one down. And CAST has been on my reading list, so I need to get it off my reading list and make it an active in front of me book. But those are good. Yeah, I'm gonna check out captain's class as well. Thanks for that. All right, final thing. Oh, go ahead.
For all I was just gonna say, for all competitive people, it's a really interesting um, dissection of team and what makes teams great. So I think you'll enjoy it.
I'm sure I will. It sounds super interesting. All right. Any final words of wisdom? Any final wrap up? That the floor is yours. You can say whatever you want. This is your time to kind of give it to the listeners.
I mean, I think the biggest thing that I want to say is, wherever you are, support the women in your area, support the teams, whether they be collegiate, whether they be professional. Go out, support them. Go out, support those coaches, and just really pour into the game. I think the best way to get our game continually to move forward is by showing up, whether it's clicking on the channel and making sure at least the channel's on, even if you're actively doing something else. Right. At least give the rating. But when you have an opportunity to go and support, there's a lot of amazing players. The level of collegiate soccer is going to go up over the next 5 to 10 years. The youth players are fantastic, and there are going to be a lot of names that you're going to want to know. So tune in wherever you can, go see them wherever you can, when you can, depending on where you live.
Yeah.
And give them some love. Give them some love.
That's awesome. Well, Keidane, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. So you're training now for the spring season, or what's the status with your team right now?
We are in season.
Okay.
The games, our first game is Thursday.
So okay.
We're wide open. We're in it.
So yeah. Are they streaming?
We open up with Pepperdine.
Are they streaming the games at all, or?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, all of our games should be streamed. I know Pac-12 will start picking up games beginning in March. Don't know exactly which games just yet. Okay. But the new spring season will start February 3rd is the beginning of the official season. Okay. A lot of teams are starting to play their exhibition games this weekend. So you'll start to see a lot more games come on again, and so this is the time to start checking in and checking out the new teams that you didn't get to see in the fall, right. And then get to see the fall teams come back with College Cup. I think it's May 13th and 17th weekend. Okay. Cary, North Carolina, both men and women playing at the same venue that weekend.
I like that.
Yeah.
Is that the first time ever?
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
I don't know if it's the first time, but it's definitely the first time since I've been in it.
Yeah, because since I've been around, I think it's been at separate venues, and I've never understood that. Anyways, well, that's great. That's great news. I'm gonna check that all out. But Keidane, thank you so much for all you do for women and coaches within the game. Thank you for being a part of the Women in Soccer organization, which if you don't know what Women in Soccer is, you can go to womeninsoccer.org online. It's a free platform to join. It's like LinkedIn for women and allies that support women. Yeah. So good luck on your first game and your season, and I'll make sure to tune in. And one of these days we'll be able to meet in person, and I'll take you for a coffee, and we can talk about how to change the world.
Yeah, you can give me some coaching tips. I'm sure I can use some.
we can share information. So again, there we go. Thank you so much for your time. I know you've been super busy, but I really appreciate it, and best of luck to you this season.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.